Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4.
Good evening. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We know there's still people outside getting their dinner, so we're just waiting. If you need translation in Spanish, Vietnamese, or Korean, there is translation in the back. All right. Well, good evening. Welcome to the 2021-22 LCAP process. Woohoo! Yay! My name is Manuel Colon, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the Anaheim Union High School District. I'm proud to facilitate this process and to see all of our entire school community represented here tonight. How many of you, this is their first time? Raise your hand. Wow, that's awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to start by giving a huge thank you to ASTA, our Teacher Association Union, and President Grant Schuster for the dinner tonight. So let's give him a round of applause, and ASTA. There's no better way to get to know each other than with food, right? Yeah, so, and you can't beat In-N-Out, come on, right? So thank you to ASTA and our teachers union for providing that dinner for all of us. I do not see our Board of Trustees, but I want to thank our Board of Trustees. They're always here, they're always present, observing the process, and obviously they're part of the process when we conclude it, when we bring it to them. But I want to thank our Board of Trustees. I also want to thank and recognize our cabinet that is here, starting with our superintendent, Mr. Michael Matsuda. Our assistant superintendent of education, Dr. Jaren Freed. And our assistant superintendent of business, Dr. Nancy Nguyen. She always brings the fan club. So welcome and thank you to everybody. I also want to welcome, we have, like I said, everybody represented in the room. Our students, we have a great group of students this year. Thank you, students, for being here tonight. Our parents who are always here and dedicated and always come to this process because you know how important it is. Let's thank our parents. Our staff that are represented by our classified staff, certificated staff, administrative staff. Let's thank them for being here tonight. And our community partners who are also in the room because they know how important this is. So our community partners, let's thank them for being here as well. So today, what you will hear, especially for those of you that are new to the process, you will hear the vision of the district from our superintendent. He will kind of set the stage for this whole process. Why are we here, and why is what we do every day so important? So he will set the stage, he will give us our vision, he will give us the lens that we will begin this process with and through, and then we will talk about the overview. We will discuss the process, what is your commitment, and also what is the outcomes that we expect from the process. And so hopefully by the time you leave tonight, you will have a better understanding of what LCAP is, the reason for why we're here, and why it's so important to bring our entire community together. So this year, for the first time, drum roll, for the first time, we have a group virtual. So we're all here together like we always have been, which is super exciting, but we also have a virtual group that will join us through the entire process virtually, because we wanted to make sure that nobody was excluded from this process. So again, thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy our next 2 months together. Is it 2 or 3 months? February, March, April, 3 months. 3 months together. So with that, we are going to get to know each other just a little bit better, because as you know, we can't do this process without getting to know each other. We're going to be in discussions, we're going to be in healthy conversations, we're going to be supporting each other, and so in order for us to do that, we got to get to know each other. We have to get to see who's in the room, and truly, through this process, many of us have established relationships that have gone beyond the LCAP process. So to start us off in really bringing our community together is Ruben Patino, who is our curriculum specialist for the district in social science, civic engagement, technology. He does a lot of great things for us, but he's also our rock, paper, scissors introduction. So, Ruben.
Thank you, Manuel. So the last time we were able to do this in a large group, it's been 2 years. Now, I don't know if our previous winner is present, but all I can say is there will be a winner this evening. So, as you can see, for those of you who have forgotten or aren't really sure, when you play rock, paper, scissors, you have your little guide up there. So before we begin, you see the numbers 1, 2, 3. Eventually, when we start, you're going to start with the person next to you. So Mr. Carmona, just for demonstration purposes. So when you find the person, introduce yourself. Hello, I'm Ruben Patino.
Hello, I'm Joe Carmona.
Nice to meet you. So then see the numbers. You're going to count 1, 2, so you can go 1, 2, 3, and then you make your rock, paper, or scissors. Okay? Whoever wins, so we'll say Mr. Carmona won. Darn it. But now I am going to be his fan. So Mr. Carmona will head here, and I'll be cheering him on. And then whoever wins there, they find the next person. Eventually, there will only be 2 of you left. And hopefully behind each of those will be their fan base cheering each other on. So again, make sure you introduce yourself. The other person introduce themselves. You count 1, 2, 3, and then you either put out rock, paper, or scissors. And whoever wins, you then move on to find your next opponent. Now, it is crowded, which is wonderful. So again, please be careful as you move around. We don't want anybody to fall. I know some of you will get really excited, and that's great. All right, so let's begin. Good luck. So stand up and let's get started. our winner, please come on up front.
Michael is the winner, representing Gilbert High School.
Okay, so we have our winner. So I know Mr. Lara is so proud of you. Can you tell everybody your name, please, in your school?
My name is Michael Flores, and I'm from Gilbert High School.
All right, let's get a round of applause. Here is your trophy, young man.
Thank you, sir.
The 2022 Rock, Paper, Scissors champion. Now you know they're all going to be gunning for you. All right.
That is awesome. All right, go ahead and take your seats. Congratulations, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you get bragging rights for an entire year, okay? And then next year, somebody will come and try to take your crown away, but you're gonna defend it, right? All right. Whew, it's always exciting. I will tell you that the first time we did this, I said, no, it cannot happen with 300 people. It just happened again. So thank you to Mr. Patino and his creativity for making it happen and making it work with so many people. And thank you for your commitment and ability to move around the room in such a tight space. So thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our vision, right? We talked about when I first started the process for today and the agenda for today. And I said that the most important piece is really about the vision and about looking forward and the lens that we're going to be seeing our conversations through. And so it gives me great honor to introduce our superintendent, Mr. Michael Matsuda, who really has led the charge and the way for everything that we've been doing in our district in the last 5 to 7 years. It has put our district on the map, as many of you know, not only within the county of Orange, but also across the state of California and now even the nation. So let's give Mr. Matsuda a round of applause and welcome him.
Thank you. And congratulations, Michael. That was awesome. Looking forward to seeing you back next year. One person that won't be back next year, but I'm sure will be watching from home and maybe from Hawaii or wherever he is our own Mr. Manuel Colon, who's announced his retirement. Let's give it up for our Chief Academic Officer, Manuel Colon. There's so many people to credit for the success of our LCAP. And Mr. Colon, you are, this is part of your vision too, and what you've built in terms of the community engagement. You guys realize that we have been acknowledged and recognized by the state of California for our LCAP process. Truly it meets or exceeds what was envisioned by Governor Jerry Brown when he wanted to really make local control the front and center of school reform and the ability of bringing in the students and the parents and community members to all have a say in how we spend our precious dollars. And because so much is riding on the future of our kids. So I really want to thank all of you for participating. And again, I know we put a shout out to our friends at ASTA, our teachers union. They fed us, right? Because it all starts with the most basic things, right? And we've discovered that in our challenge with COVID. COVID has exposed many inequities in society across this country, and we have our own inequities in this district and across Anaheim, but I'm so very proud that we have so many things in place, starting with many of our social workers and our mental health processes and our priorities that we built prior to COVID hitting us, because you parents knew that there were there was a disconnect between schools and education, and that many of our young kids were already beginning to suffer in isolation and anxiety, depression, and we were very ahead of the curve in terms of prioritizing mental health early on, even before COVID hit. So I want to start with our vision, because it all starts with that, in terms of whether we are aligned. And the vision is often called, there's three parts to this: the it, the we, and the I. The it is the vision to create, it's very simple, to create a better world through the unlimited you. It's simple, but it's complex, because what does that really mean? It doesn't say to increase test scores or have high SATs. It's to create a better world for all of us. This generation is inheriting many, many challenges, from global warming to food insecurity to the prospect of maybe war, right? Energy, so many challenges facing this young generation. This country has led the world in innovation, and we intend, at Anaheim, we intend to lead education and lead the world forward. For you will create a better world. And so that's the it. The we is all of us, whether we believe this or not, whether we are united in this mission. And then it ends with the I, each of you individually. When we talk about our vision and our mission, is that a fit for you? Because we live in an age where kids can go to almost any school they want to, any district they want to. And ours, unlike many of our neighbors, we're not about just test scores. We are about creating better Americans, better citizens, better parents, better spouses, better neighbors, people who are committed to what our founders try to create in this great American experience. We are committed to democracy. We are committed to you having a voice. That's what this is about, you having a voice. So the core values, 7 of them, and again, I want you to think about, is this the I? Is this who you are? Do you believe in this? Number 1, we believe in and model the 5 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, communication, and compassion. Right? Those are not SAT scores. Those are skills that are going to help you navigate life, help you navigate relationships, help you navigate the future. Number 2, we believe that education must work for students and not the other way around. I want you to think about that. Does education work for you, or do you work for education? When I first came here almost 8 years ago, I asked the seniors who were headed to Ivy League or UC, and I asked them point blank, this is 8 years ago, does education work for you, or do you work for education? What do you think they said, those students? We work for education, because back then we were traditional, pushing on test scores, and many of our top kids were already burnt out, even though they were headed to great universities. They felt like education's a factory, something done to us. It's not something that works for you. Okay? The next one is, in an asset-based instructional approach focused on our community's strengths and in nurturing everyone's potential. I would argue that this is an assets-based approach to education, to really create, believing in you, the community, the students, the parents, the teachers, everybody here is an asset, not a deficit. Too many other districts, they treat our young people and our parents like deficits, that you're way behind, you've got all these problems. Not AUHSD, because we believe in every single one of you and your potential, and we believe in your parents taking the time to be part of this. We value that. Number 4, we believe in moving the needle toward equity and justice. You know, this country is divided, and we need to really promote and understand what that means, equity and justice. It's not that everybody, and I've learned, we adults have learned from you kids. From Savannah, when you guys rebranded the Rebel, recently to Anaheim High School, rebranding the Colonist. Not everybody's going to agree on these tough issues, but you kids did not hate each other for disagreeing. As many adults, there's so much hatred out there. It's destroying the fabric of this country. We believe in you, and we want to learn from you. The love that you bring to the table. It's not about agreeing on everything. It's about respecting each other from whatever culture or background that you have. We learn to respect each other, hopefully love each other. 5, we believe that our vision, mission, and core values are delivered primarily through instruction. Everything that we're saying here doesn't mean anything if you're not experiencing that in the classroom. That is so important. Much more important than just a grade. And that's why we are shifting to these capstones. The capstone is something that, you know, you're going to look back at your 6 years in AUHSD and say, hey, I actually learned something. You know, this grade, you know, my parents got split up, and so I went into depression and my grades weren't so high. But I know where I'm headed. Because of the pledge, I can go to the community college and I can rebuild myself. I can transfer through and get into the UC still. That's what we want. We want you to have a plan when you graduate this district. Your education will never end. You know and you have the skills and the confidence to go in and out. And you're not going to beat yourself up when life happens and bad things happen. You're going to grow. You're going to become more resilient. Number 6, we believe in systems, not silos. Silos is when everybody's like not talking to each other, right? We believe in systems, that it's so integrated. And number 7, we believe that public schools should enhance and strengthen democracy through cultivation of student voice and problem solving. This is an example of student voice, parent voice, and problem solving. This is an example of democracy where community comes together and you have a voice in how we spend our money. This district has $380 million. A lot of it is in the past, you know, the district decided how that money was spent. Now you have a voice. And that truly is democracy in action. So this all comes together with a new framework that we call the Career Preparedness Systems Framework. There's like 3 circles to that. The circle on the lower, and the student, you notice, is in the middle. Circle on the lower left is 21st century skills. That's another way of saying those are the 5 C's. We're going to deliver the 5 C's to you guys. Circle on the right is technical skills. Those are the dual credit. You guys are beginning to get a lot of dual credit opportunities at Fullerton College, Cypress College. They come right to your high schools. Our district leads Orange County with students who are graduating with enough dual credit and many AP credit to almost knock a year off college. And that's why our kids are really succeeding once they go to college. But I would argue the 3rd circle, that top one, is the most important. That's the development of student voice and purpose. Because what difference does it make if you graduate a 4.0, 4.5 valedictorian if you don't know where you're going? 8 years ago, when I came to become superintendent, when I asked those students, does school work for you, or do you work for the schools? Many of them said, no, we feel like this is a factory. Some of them were going to the top schools, and I asked, what are you going to do? Some of them want to be doctors. I said, why do you want to be doctors? Because they make a lot of money, or because my parents told me to be a doctor. But other than that, I don't know what they do. That's a recipe for unhappiness. And already I could tell some of these kids were unhappy. We want you to find your purpose. MLK said every job has dignity. And if you love what you're doing, it doesn't matter where you get paid. It took me a long time to discover my calling. It wasn't until I was 34 where I became a teacher. And I remember my first year at Orangeview Junior High and feeling, wow, they pay me for this. I love being the surrogate father, right? I could not believe that I had discovered my calling as a teacher. Fairly late in life, too. But I was so happy every day. And that's what we want for all of you, to find your calling, your purpose, and your passion. And we're going to help you get there, no matter where it is.
Over the past several years, many Americans have experienced economic turmoil and unemployment. Families and communities are suffering. Many of the jobs that have disappeared
Okay, this is a quiz. I just cheated, but so of the 5 C's, which one do you think is the most important? Creativity? Communication? Collaboration? Well, you guessed them all, right? So who says creativity? Raise your hand. All right. Who says collaboration? Raise your hand. Who says critical thinking? Raise your hand. Who says communication? Raise your hand. Who says compassion? Raise your hand. Wow. I would argue, they're all important, but I would argue that compassion is probably the most important. And this little, we call this the Tate Kindness Scale. We're debuting it tonight. It's going to be available at all the school sites. But Tom Tate, who was former mayor, who has been a big partner of AIM, and who's just been amazing, still a partner in his retirement as well. He's the one who ran on a campaign of kindness for the city of Anaheim. We call that compassion. And it was actually the students, you students, who enlightened us on why the 5th C, because it used to just be 4 C's. But some of the students, in a conversation they had with Mayor Tate, they said, you know what, the Nazis were pretty efficient. They were pretty good at the 4 C's. They didn't have the 5th C of kindness or compassion. So we were going, oh my gosh, you're right. You know, there's something missing here. So we decided to add the 5th C. We called it compassion or character. And if you think about that simple graph there, we want all of our kids from Anaheim to end up in the quadrant. What quadrant do you think we want them to end up in? Because if you look at that graph, if you have a lot of 4 C's, that means to the right. And if you have a lot of compassion, you go up. So which quadrant does that leave? A. So we want our kids to be living in quadrant A, where that would be like Martin Luther King, right? Very compassionate leader, but very strong in the 4 C's. So we don't want quadrant D. That would be, you know, the young Adolf Hitler out there, right? So that's really a simple way to look at why the 5th C, compassion and kindness, is probably the most important, you know, and we need that more than ever. So I'm really proud of our board for continuously supporting our arts. Our VAPA programs are second to none. I know people from outside the district who've seen our bands perform. They just marched in the TEP parade and in the Black History Month parade, and people from outside Anaheim are blown away by the quality of our VAPA programs. Just amazing, amazing work. Want to put a shout out quickly to Brian Balsky. Where are you? Brian Balsky, our director of VAPA. And I would argue that this pandemic is creating a generation of very creative young people who want to express themselves through the arts, through music, through painting, drawing, spoken word, all different types of ways, because that's where the healing is, the human expression of emotion through the arts. The district is committed more than ever to our athletic programs. Wanted to just put a quick shout out there to our Loera High football champions, Mr. Gary Brown. Again, I don't know if Mitch Olson in the house? Mitch is probably out. I know that tonight's probably CIF too. He's probably out there. So we have just amazing, amazing athletics across the district, and our board has been unflinching in supporting our athletic programs and our VAPA, so we're very grateful to our board for their support as well. But we have also been a leader in these cutting-edge areas. We are the first district in the United States to partner with a little mom-and-pop company called Google. So we currently have about 800 kids taking the Google certificates. About 150 of them will probably get the certificates. So we started a little bit late. It's no one's fault, but it just took a while for all the attorneys to get together and make sure we protected our students in this partnership. But many of our kids were going to be able to graduate high school in the coming years with at least one Google certificate. And I'll tell you how important that is. Google has negotiated with 150 of the Fortune 1000 companies across America to take a Google certificate, which you can get in 6 months to a year, take that over a bachelor's degree in computer science. Now think about what that's going to do to the four-year institutions if they don't start changing, you know, because college is very expensive. We in Anaheim are still committed to every kid going to college, because still that is the pathway. But companies like Google are saying, because college is so expensive and it takes so long, why not offer these certificates? There's about 100,000 young Americans, not in high school, but you know, these are like 20-something, 30-something young Americans who are retraining themselves. Rather than go back to college, they get a Google certificate, getting a good job. So we're the first district to offer that opportunity across the district. And again, I want to put a shout out to our teachers who were the first ones in America to actually take the class themselves and then integrate it into their own classes so our kids can have that opportunity. So round of applause for our teachers. Another big first, we are the first to offer an agro-science community center. This is a fancy word for a community farm, but it's more than a farm. There's something really, really special in terms of the dealing and transforming our neighborhoods from food deserts to food and nutrition and healthcare oasis. And we have teachers from 5 sites that are working across the curriculum, bringing in a lot of this awareness into the classrooms so our kids can help transform our neighborhoods. A short video here I'm going to show.
Hi, my name is Michael Matsu. Science Community Center, first of its kind in the country, designed to be an urban agri-science laboratory, in effect an urban farm, which is going to transform the community from a food desert to a food and healthcare oasis. This project is a district initiative involving, in year 1, at least 5 to 6 schools and teachers across the curriculum, from science to English to health to math. And we're going to have kids learn all about the basics of a food desert through data analytics, through census data, and developing sort of a baseline of the community and comparing that over time in terms of childhood obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and then have them also bring in qualitative data and surveys based on what they see out in the neighborhoods, and then start asking questions about how this has happened, what's going on, what policies have led to this. Like I said, a very transformative project that's going to change the landscape of food deserts, not just in Anaheim, but perhaps across this country, where students and community members can really take more ownership of their health and welfare.
AUHSD is also leading the country in developing a brand new artificial intelligence pathway at Kennedy High School in partnership with UC Irvine, in partnership with groups like the United Nations, and of course Cypress College, and I think North Orange County ROP. All of our partners are involved with this. And we had a big summit at the Hilton in Anaheim, and we had 5,000 people watching us from across the world. I think there were like 3 or 4 other countries involved too. So more to come on this. Artificial intelligence is going to impact every single content area, and we are leading in artificial intelligence. So this one is on the biotech program that we're setting up at Anaheim High School. Biotech is another cutting-edge area that Anaheim is leading. Our biotech pathway is at Anaheim High School in partnership with Fullerton College and UC Irvine.
Medicine, even things like insulin and various proteins. We also use biotechnology in agriculture and helping us develop food that has the correct nutrients in it so that we can create a much healthier food product. So at Anaheim High School here, our Biotech 1 and 2 will prepare students for a career in biotech. They will be getting hands-on experience using lab equipment that they would use in industry. They'll also be focusing on the 5 C's. So we'll be working with learning how to have patience while doing things like gel electrophoresis, learning how to work as a team, learning how you can explore your careers, things like bioethics and how that plays into the jobs and the market that is going to be so very big and influential in biotech. So they're getting a really hands-on feel for what it's like to work in a lab. Students will be on the cutting edge of some of the biggest jobs that are going to start showing up in industry. We're already seeing, especially with the pandemic, a tremendous pull for public health, new research in pharmaceuticals, new research in vaccines and health. So students will really be engaged in the next cutting edge of jobs and all kinds of fields that are going to be popping up with biotechnology.
I heard it was a new class here in Anaheim High School, and it caught my interest that I had the opportunity to learn a little more about medicine and technology and how it can help our everyday life.
We started really looking at the vertical alignment and recognizing that if we want kids to really enjoy the truth of science, got to start now. So we went out to a showcase and we talked to elementary school students, and it was fascinating to see how excited they got when they were able to micropipette. Students really need to be exposed and have an idea, what do I want to do when I grow up? And science is such an exciting field that they can go into, especially biotech. These are very specific jobs and different careers they can do. So to get some firsthand knowledge, it was really fun to work with colleagues. We had a lot of students from Fullerton, some techs helping us out. Students will be coming in from the variety of Anaheim City elementaries, but the junior highs that are going to be promoting and supporting the biotechnology program start with Sycamore Junior High.
I got into biotechnology in the 8th grade, thanks to my teacher, Ms. Cuevas. So in her class, we did a lot of labs that mimic kind of what scientists do on a daily basis in labs. And when we were doing them, I really enjoyed it, and I knew that that's kind of something that I wanted to continue doing. So I signed up for the class here at Anaheim.
So in middle school, we start our career explorations, and they're going to start exploring the pathways and all the different jobs that are available in biotech.
They also, in the junior high, will be learning some of the mainstays, the central dogma. If they can start learning that part in junior high, once they come into the high school level, then we can really start digging into the technical components of biotechnology. There's 4 different certificates that they can get once they've gone through the biotechnology pathway at Sycamore and Anaheim.
I would totally recommend this class. because it's a great way to get experience, and especially if you're interested in the medical field.
If you like to do medicine, if you like to do dissection, if you like the human anatomy and stuff like that, then I would consider joining it because it's actually really fun.
I would strongly encourage them to try it out, at least if they're not too sure if they like science or not. We do a lot of labs. We also learn about modern technology and how it's applied in the real world. There are also a lot of career options that they could apply for based off the experience they gain in the class.
After this last semester ended, I started thinking, what are my options? What am I going to do for college? And I'm considering something environmental.
We really start preparing for that career. We start working with Fullerton College. We have a dual enrollment with them, so students can come right out of our classes very well prepared to go into Fullerton College, work in a biotech lab. They'll feel comfortable using the equipment. They will have gained a lot of great skills working in the lab and just have a really good background on everything that they can do with biotech.
And our great programs, and right there we want to highlight some of our teachers are leading the state of California. On the left is Dr. Jeff Kim from South and Junior High and CBA. He is the Teacher of the Year in Civics, so please give him a big round of applause. Next we have Julianne Riel, who is the National Teacher of the Year. She was awarded a big check from the Carlson Family Foundation, and she is a leader in innovation and business. Julianne, she's in the house. Julianne, stand up. Stand up. She's also a CBA teacher and just pretty, I mean, these are just people that represent, you know, just this much of our great teachers across the district that are working hard and making great things happen for our kids. Wanted to end with this slide. This is probably the big slide because people say, well, you're doing the 5 C's, but what about all your traditional markers? And for us, UCI is, you know, that's where we're trying to prepare kids to get into a top school like UC Irvine. And they actually came back to us and said, our Anaheim kids are outperforming every district across Orange County, both in GPA and in persistence. That means retention rates. So the average of retention rate at UC Irvine is 86%, and our kids are averaging 95 to 99% across the board. And again, I mean, we're outperforming. You think about all these other districts, you know, Newport and South, you know, Irvine and Capo, we are outperforming all of them. And the reason why, there are 2 reasons. One, our kids are coming in with a sense of purpose, trying to create that better world, and the 5 C's. So with that, I want to thank all of you for where we are and where we're going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Matsuda, for setting the vision, which we will all follow as we move forward in this process. And so he's given us a lot to think about. He's given us a lot to know and to be inspired by and to be excited about in terms of ensuring that these are the opportunities that we will maintain in our district. So it's going to be our responsibility collectively to ensure that these things are embedded into our conversations in the next few days. Another vision that we wanted to share with you is our master plan. As you know, we've been working with our current bond and seeing some amazing things happening across our district. And so I want to acknowledge Patty Neely, our Executive Director of Facilities, for the great work she has done at many of our schools. So let's give her a round of applause for the great work. Thank you, Patty. I know you've seen the great buildings at Dale Junior High School and at many of our schools, but we know we have a lot more to do. Our master plan still has a lot to be developed. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Patty Neely, who will introduce PLA, who will talk us through what does that master plan look like, and what, again, part of the bigger vision of where we're headed in terms of Anaheim Union High School District. Patty?
Thank you, Manuel. Good evening. My name is Patty Neely. I'm Executive Director of Facilities Maintenance and Operations, and tonight I have the pleasure of introducing LPA. It's an architectural firm that was hired by our Board of Trustees to lead the way as far as facilitating and leading the process of updating our facilities master plan. Today, from LPA, we have Lindsay Hayward and Jomei Liao. I'm going to call them up pretty soon, so they're going to be talking to us about the process that we followed. It's a process that we started 7 months ago in November. It's going to finish up in May, and it's going to be adopted as a document, a master plan, an official master plan by the board in June of 2022. LPA will be talking to us about what a master plan is, why we need an update, and also they're going to be talking about the process that we're following, some of the meetings that we have had and meetings that we will be having in the future, cost estimating and why we're doing that, and also just at the end, just showcasing some of the good work that we've done so far. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Lindsay first, or Jomei. Take it away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty, and good evening, everyone. It's great to see so many attendees and so much passion in this room. So it's quite very inspiring, actually, and it's great. Mr. Masuda has introduced all of the great programs that you guys are already doing at the district, and here we're just. We are assisting a district in updating their facilities master plan to make sure that the facilities are also in line with some of these programs that are up and coming and evolving, and also matching up with making sure that we're providing facilities that meet the students and the staff needs. Okay. All right, so here's our agenda. We can just kind of skip that. Just want to start off with a quick icebreaker. It's kind of hard to follow up with the rock, paper, scissors activity, but if there's a QR code that you can scan, and maybe we can kind of just get a poll on, as more travel begins to occur, what are you most looking forward to? Are you guys able to scan it? Oh, zoom in on your phone, she says. All right.
Responses are coming in. This is great. So far we have the most for enjoying a change of scenery and visiting family.
Oh, so enjoying a change of scenery and visiting family. I know that's what I want to do too. All right, so the text is a little bit small, but just in general, why a master plan? Actually, the district embarked on a very comprehensive facilities master plan about almost 10 years ago in 2013, where we really took a look at a deep dive and took a look at where the facilities were at that time and the conditions of them, and also talked a lot about their vision and how they wanted to see their facilities evolve in the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? But facilities master plan is like a roadmap for the district, right? And in terms of when money comes in, then you have a plan on what you're going to do next. And why we need to update is because, first of all, the California Department of Education, CD, recommends an update 3 to 5 years because visions change, right? And, people change, and also your needs change. And so it's good to update. So, during the process, what we're going to be doing is defining the need, planning that vision. You know, we're meeting with a lot of different groups, a lot of stakeholders. Some of you might also be involved in some of these stakeholder engagement sessions, and defining that planning and vision, and then finally implementation. So some of the components of the facilities master plan, like I had mentioned, we're going to do some facilities condition assessment, take a look at where you're at now, some of the great work done, building on that great work that you've already done to date, and also seeing where that vision is and where we need to still go. Education assessment and standards will be, again, relooking at some of the vision and what's changed in that and updating that, and obviously overlaying that onto your school sites and making the updates and changes to those plans. So a lot of the stakeholder engagement is going to be happening throughout this process in the next couple months. You know your district, so I'm not going to go through too many of those. You know, you're supporting 28,000 students. Again, like I mentioned, we had 2013 facilities master plan, and then Measure H passed, and a lot of that funding has been you've seen that work on a lot of your school sites already, but obviously there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Facilities are old, and work needs to be done. Some of that good work done to date, I mean, you guys have been seeing it, some of the transformations of some of the school sites, you know, a lot of the aquatic centers that have been built in terms of in Anaheim High School, Cypress High School, beautiful facilities, state of the art, right, as well as, you know, some of the site improvements in terms of parking and drop-off, enhancing those and increasing the safety in all of those school sites, as well as redefining the entry and making a statement and improving the curb appeal of a lot of our school sites. Improving a lot of quad work and site work that has been done, parking lot work you've seen, as well as some of the parking and drop-off, as you can see at Catella High School, Ball Junior High School, some of the lunch shelter facilities. So a lot of great work that have been a lot of modernization in terms of locker rooms and gymnasiums, libraries, some of the classrooms. These are awesome spaces for students to collaborate and learn, and things that that weren't at the older school sites. Transformation at, like Patty had mentioned, at Oxford Academy, as well as Dale Junior High Schools. You know, rebuilding of almost like a good portion of those campuses with new facilities. So you're seeing your bond dollars to work and transformation of all of these school sites. Okay. Our next question here, do you have any connection to any of school site? We just want to get a gauge of like who is represented today and in terms of tonight's attendance. Yeah, feel free to walk up and scan the code. You know, it's like a little bit small. I know we should have put it like giant, right, on this.
Quick question. We're representing two schools.
Oh.
I'm representing both Gilbert and Blair.
Oh, okay. Just pick one. Okay. Yep, no worries.
All right. So we're getting a pretty good representation from a lot of groups here, which is fantastic to see in terms of the turnout tonight. So thank you so much for being here, and for those who are at home watching online. Oops, do I need to go back? I'm sorry. Here, QR coded up. And there's one more of these at the very end if you want to keep your phone a little handy. And that one's a little bit more of a written response, so you can even leave the window open and do it later, because I know we're trying to move along here at a bit of a fast clip. So in terms of where we are in the FMP process currently, you'll see that red dashed line down the middle of the screen, which really implies that we are midway through the process. The beginning of the process really takes a lot of time to understand where things are at today. We do a lot of research, data collection, understand and meet with a lot of focus groups at the district level to understand those types of things. Many of you in the room may have taken a recent survey. We've had parent and student surveys out. We've had teacher surveys out online, so we're collating all of those results. currently to understand what the needs are from each vantage point to understand how that may affect the master plan moving forward. Right in the middle, we're here today, so we've kind of gone through the research phase up front. The analysis phase was next. We're currently rapidly drawing master plan diagrams for every single site in the district. We've always found that it helps to take all that information, apply that to a site diagram and map to come up with a proposal that we then get a lot of feedback on to course correct. It's much harder when you start with a blank page and kind of think, what if? And so a lot of what Superintendent Matsuda talked about in the beginning in terms of CTE programs and a lot of the things, the robust programs that your district is working towards and doing currently, and such exciting things, we want the facilities to support those and match those in a much better way than they might today. So the master plan process is taking a lot of that into account. I should say, sorry, moving forward, what's left, so we'll be doing all of those diagrams. We have the opportunity to have a couple community forums coming up, which you are all welcome to attend. Those dates will be at the end of the presentation. And that will be the first time we do the big reveal of these draft master plans for you all to look at and comment on. As Patty said, from there, we will take those plans back, get all the comments, revise them, and then we will put a cost so that the district has an understanding of how much, what might be in the future costs so that they can plan ahead and think about how funding sources may be applied to that. We will be presenting to the board for the first time in May. They've been a part of this process and been updated throughout, but that will be one of the larger presentations to them in a workshop format, and then with the hope for adoption in June. So what do these diagrams look like? These are a smattering of what they can look like relative to how we represent the potential work. So these diagrams will show anything from what might be modernized to what might be kind of shifted around, what might be built new. You'll see some of the diagrams have a lot of white. That stands out as new construction. In terms of really understanding how many students attend each school and will attend in the future from the side of demographics, and then applying that to the site as well as all the program components that we want to understand and how that starts to lay out onto a campus diagram. From there, we go into a pretty robust and detailed cost estimating process, and that's really so that we can start to analyze different components of the master plan. And so it's not just sort of one big lump sum number of this is what it takes to accomplish this vision. We know that it needs to be bitten off in chunks, much as you've seen the Measure H dollars applied to school sites. It does come in phases. It comes in increments. And so we want to make that a palatable means to be able to kind of understand what can be built and for how much money. So with that, many of the components that come into this is really actually hearing from all of you. As Superintendent Matsuda had said, your voice matters. It very much matters in this process too. Throughout this process, we are asking stakeholders for their input, for their prioritization, what you think are the most critical things moving forward of if the district has a bunch of money tomorrow, what are the critical needs that need to be addressed first? And so these are the type of prioritizations and stakeholder prioritized scopes that we would be then taking to the board to help them understand what all of you are thinking in terms of what the next step should be for the district as far as their facilities go. So this is an example from another district we've worked with in terms of how we start to summarize that. So as we ask teachers and staff through surveys, as we've asked the students through surveys, as we reach out to the principals, we work with school site committees, we're asking each of those groups at every turn what their top 3 priorities are. And we want to see if there's alignment. If there's alignment of things across all of these different groups, I mean, it's phenomenal. And I'm always amazed how often there is alignment because the needs really do tend to surface themselves pretty quickly. But all of these we come up with in order to understand if there's any commonalities. And we take all this information in this type of format to the board for them to understand what the stakeholders are saying. And from there, we really do try to understand sort of how to fund this. So if you think about in the past, your district passed Measure H, that would be a bond at the top maybe. Whether the district has any state eligibility for projects available, we really do look at all possible, we try to uncover every rock in terms of where we might be able to find money to be able to further the development of each of the schools in the district. And so we come up with a total potential funding And then ultimately, because we don't know when those projects will be implemented over time, we only take a portion of that, 2/3 of that, to assign to projects, so that you make sure the first project you start with, you're able to secure and still build the last one. And things like escalation, which in today's economy, and everything with supply issues that are going on today, we want to be able to promise the first and promise the last. And so we always reserve a little bit off the top of what can be promised to be able to make sure that that can be accomplished. So in some of our focus group conversations to date, we've had some really great themes come out of that. And this was spoken about earlier as well. So it's exciting to see the theme kind of carry through. But really, this district is very concerned and wants to make a concerted effort to have facilities that support students, families, and the community, and that happens at every school site. So from that standpoint, as a part of the master plan diagrams, we'll be making sure that there's space for a student wellness center on campus, and that houses anything from psychologists, speech, to social workers, things of that nature, with small group space to be able to meet with students, a college and career center, or the Pledge Center, a family resource center, and a community school resource center. So really trying to get every tier from student to family to community as a basis for each campus in the district. Similarly, as we talked about a lot earlier, the CTE exclusive pathway specialization, wanting to make sure there's spaces on each campus to support the wonderful programs you have. Really taking a hard look at flexible libraries, maybe more thinking of them as student union and library spaces when you think of kind of that next step to collegiate, and having them be a little bit more of the time now, the 21st century and beyond, in terms of having space for communication, collaboration, all of those things that students desire. And then the need for proper science labs. We have walked every site in the district, so we've seen a lot of this firsthand, but wanting to make sure that all of those are up to snuff, and planning for the future. And then need for proper VAPA support spaces. So we've heard nothing but great things about all the programs that you have in the district, but again, we want to make sure that the support spaces for those great programs are there. And then parity among athletic support spaces for girls and boys. We are looking at that in a concurrent study. And then field houses to support athletic programs. So those were some of the top themes, not all that was talked about, but those were some of the top themes. And so with that, in a means to try to be efficient, did you have something, Patty?
Yeah, I think Q&A.
Yes.
Leave it for Manolo if you want to
Okay.
maybe during our next session.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to leave Q&A for a little bit, but if you just want to scan this QR code, if you have some thoughts you want to share and you didn't participate in the survey process, this is more of an open-ended question, so you may not want to type right now, but if you leave it open on your phone, you're welcome to share your thoughts. We would love to hear from all of you in terms of how you will define success for this master plan update. The more input we get, we've always found that the plans get better because we have that much more stakeholder engagement and stakeholder input. And lastly, what are the most critical items to address? So with that, yeah.
So,
okay.
Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
We will be emailing you the QR codes directly, so that way you can follow it up after, okay? So we will email these to you, and you can provide more input that way.
And my apologies that CVA and Polaris were not on the representation piece, because I understand there's a lot of you here tonight, so we will make sure to make those updates in the future. So next steps for us, if you are interested in this process and want to hear more or want to specifically see what the future of, or have a say in the future of your school site, we are actually having 2 community forums, one for the West Side schools and this will be advertised on the district website as well, but on Monday the 28th at the Cypress Community Center in the evening, we will be having a brief presentation about the process, which you kind of have a heads up with tonight. But then the second half of the meeting will really be the unveiling of the draft plans, and we'll be all walking around the room and answering questions and wanting to hear feedback and input relative to what you think of that draft plan and what changes should be made to make it even better. And then similarly, the following Monday on the 7th, for the East Side schools here in this room, we'll be doing the same thing for the East Side schools. So if any of you can attend, we look forward to seeing you there. And that's it. I'll skip this because of time.
Well, we want to thank Patty and the team from LPA for sharing the great work and the exciting work that's to come. I think that our stakeholders really are seeing the vision and seeing all of this come together. Patty will be part of the first group, so group number 1. So if you're in that group, this conversation will continue because we want to make sure, as they were stating, that our facilities match the amazing programs that we have in our district. I think all of you would agree that that's what we want to happen. We're going to take just a 1-second stretch break. So if you can, those that are sick, just stand up, stretch, and then come back down. All right. Take a quick stretch break. All right. Go ahead and sit back down. We wanted to make sure. Now, we know that we are doing a lot of the work today, but just know that after today's meeting, you will be doing all of the work. So I think that's going to be important for us to know that. But it's important for us to set the stage. It's important for us to set the context. It's important for us to really provide the vision of the process. I also didn't get a chance to acknowledge somebody that also is part of cabinet that has been instrumental in a lot of the videos that you saw in both the presentations that you see, and it's always behind the scenes, but it's important to acknowledge the great work that our PIO, our Public Information Officer, John Bautista, does. So let's acknowledge John. Thank you, John. And he is also the one that's doing the live stream for our community partners that are seeing us online. With that, we're going to take you through the process. And again, as we always share, we're doing it, and many of you say, Manuel, you're never going to do this. We always start on time and end on time. So that is our motto in LCAP. Start on time and end on time. So in the next 10 minutes, you will hear about just the overview of the process. We know that it's going to be a fast overview, but all of you should have picked up the LCAP booklet. Everything that we're going to cover in the next 10 minutes, it's in the booklet. You don't have to take it out right now, but just make sure that you have it as you move on, and you can go ahead and review it before the next meeting. But let's take you through the process. So, as Mr. Matsuda said, we're talking about a new funding formula that was enacted in 2013 by Governor Brown, the legislature in California, to say that the funding that the California state gives to schools has to be different. We no longer can give it to the schools in pieces and expect the schools to do it the way we direct them to do. So the state really formulated this concept that you're seeing in real time today, that it's really about us. It's really about who we are and what we believe and what our needs are, that we can determine how best to spend the money. So that is the process that was enacted in 2013. And when you see the figures, this is how the money is divided. The entire state gets money for every student that attends our schools. In addition to that, the districts are given money depending on the grade level. Elementary school kids get a certain amount, middle school kids get a certain amount, and high school kids get a certain amount. Okay? In addition to that, districts also get money for students who are part of certain student groups. And they are our low-income students, those that have completed a free reduced lunch application and have been approved. That's the low-income population. And we also have our English learners, and we have our foster youth. Those are the 3 student groups that our district gets additional funding for. When we have conversations in our groups, we're going to be looking through the lens of these 3 groups, because we get a lot of money to spend to ensure that all students are successful, especially the students that are struggling the most, which in many cases is these 3 groups. The state requires us as a process to embed 8 state priorities. So there's 8 state priorities. So always remember that as you are going through the process and in your groups, you are going to be divided based on these 8 state priorities. And when you see the document, you have to see these 8 state priorities embedded in there. So the 8 state priorities are organized into 3 buckets, or into 3 groups. One is student conditions for learning. Okay, that's one bucket. And in that bucket, you have 3 state priorities. Priority 1, priority 2, and priority 7. The second bucket is pupil outcomes. How are we ensuring that what we are doing is succeeding? So we need to look at it from that lens. So in that bucket, we have 2 state priorities, 4 and 8. And then the third bucket is engagement. Okay? And engagement comes in different forms. It's as simple as our students coming to school. Okay? Are students feeling safe? Are students engaged? Do they feel positive? Our families, do they feel welcome? Do they feel engaged? Do they feel a part of our schools? So that engagement bucket has 3 state priorities: priority 3, priority 5, and priority 6. So the LCAP, we talked about LCFF, which is the funding formula, right? So within the funding formula, the districts are asked to develop an LCAP, or a local control accountability plan. Okay, that is the way that we are now giving back to the state as to what it is that we're doing to ensure that we are spending our money in the best way possible to ensure that our students are being successful. So within the LCAP development, which is why we're here, it is a 3-year plan. So even though it's a 3-year plan, and this year is the first year of the 3-year plan, so even though it's a 3-year plan, every year we continue to revise it. We continue to see the data and see, is it working, is it not working? What do we need to adjust? What do we need to address? It's telling the story of the Anaheim Union High School District. Mr. Matsuda set the vision. That vision now is the story through our discussions, through our process. How are we going to spend the money? How are we going to prioritize the money to ensure that that vision becomes a reality? Okay? And the planning and the discussion and the engagement is what we are demonstrating here today. The organization of the plan is the number one thing that the state says is you have to have an education partners engagement. And that's what we are doing here today. Now, we talked about comparing us to other districts, and I think some of you who are parents in other districts know that many times the way that other districts get input is through surveys. And those surveys is the only way that they get that input, and they say, see, we got input from our stakeholders. Our district, we took to heart the letter of the law, and we said, you know, if it's local control, this is local control. And our voices have to be heard, and we have to see our voices within that document. So for us, this is critical and important in terms of the transparency of the process. So the LCAP has, our LCAP, Anaheim Union High School District LCAP has 3 goals, okay? And again, the 8 state priorities are embedded into these 3 goals. So for us, goal number 1, all students will demonstrate college, career, and life readiness and success through the implementation of the 5 C's. That's goal number 1. So a lot of our activities that you will see are embedded into that goal. So if you go to the booklet, you will see what are all those activities that are ensuring that we meet that goal. Goal number 2, provide meaningful educational engagement opportunities for all parents and families to advocate for all students. We believe so strongly in the Anaheim Union High School District that families matter, that we created a whole goal collectively for to ensure that happened. And goal number 3, provide and nurture a safe, reflective, responsive, and positive school culture. And that's goal number 3. So everything we do is embedded into one of these 3 goals within our district. So with that, I can ask you one simple question. Are we still good with these goals? If you say yes, we're still good with these goals, thumbs up. If you feel that these goals need to change in some way, thumbs down. We'll get a consensus, a visual consensus and then we may or may not have a discussion. So if you agree that these are still our goals, and we can move forward with these goals, thumbs up or thumbs down. So visual consensus is that we continue with these goals. Thank you. See how quickly we did it? All right. So just briefly, I think I already shared that we have 3 primary groups that we are going to be working with and ensuring that what we are doing is meeting their needs. Our low-income students, our plurilingual students, our English learners, our foster youth. But in our district, we have been very, very intentional about 2 other groups that are also equally important, our students with disability and our homeless students. And it's important for us to know as a district that we have developed task forces to really focus on the development and implementation of how best to support these student populations. And finally, the timeline. We started this process on January 25th when we presented to our DLAC committee. We also did a parent orientation on January 25th. We started our steering committee. I want to thank all of our steering committee members. They are your representatives on that group. And their process and their role is really to ensure that the process is transparent and that the process moves along as we complete the LCAP. Okay, so they are the leaders of associations. They are your parent leaders from our PTA, our DLAC. They are student ambassadors, and they are representatives who will be facilitating your meetings. We then start our engagement process, which today was the first day. We go all the way through April 28th, and we will periodically be meeting throughout that time. Our hope and our goal is to complete the LCAP on April the 30th, because we want to make sure that we can send it to the Orange County Department of Education for review, so we can get it back, make any changes prior to us submitting it to the board for approval. And the board public hearing is on June the 9th, so we hope to hear and see all of you there and see all your great work in action. And then our hope is that the board approves our LCAP on June the 16th at the board meeting on the 16th. Now you think about it, you say, okay, what do we do with all this information and all the work that you do for these, next few meetings? What happens? Well, we then give it to the school sites, and then the school sites use that information to do their SPSAs or single plan for student achievement. I shared with you that you have a booklet that's going to guide you. All the information is there. You do have homework. Your homework is to review the data. Your homework is to review some of the current actions that we have. So when we have these discussions, you are ready to contribute. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Partner in Crime with LCAP. I just want to publicly thank Mr. Carmona, who really, again, when we see the whole process, let's give him a round of applause. When you see the whole process come together, it's his work that's behind the scenes that gets it all done. So, Mr. Carmona.
Thank you, Mr. Colon. I believe I'm left with 1 minute on the clock. So, a few items as we get ready. I really appreciate all of you using the QR code to check in. That information is going to be vital for our next steps. So we're in our first meeting here, right? We heard our overview of the process and the vision. The next 3 meetings, you will be working in small groups. And as Mr. Colon stated, you will be working. I will be silent. You will be contributing. Mr. Colon will be silent. You will be telling us what you need to see and want to see, right? Mr. Matsuda will be quiet. You will be sharing those voices, right? So it's not just about tonight, right? It's those next 3 meetings where we put you to work. You tell us what's working, what we need to, we're doing it, but let's do it a little bit better. Or maybe we're not quite there yet, right? And we need to put in some additional resources and effort to make that happen. So those next 3 meetings are really critical. That 4th meeting, we'll have priorities. We'll look at all the things that we've identified across the groups, and we'll say these are the ones we consider the most important. So that's a very critical night. And then our last night, we will review that draft. And that will be a very community-centered event. We'll be working together, eating together, and preparing that draft to submit to our Board of Trustees. So that is the overview of where we're headed over the next few meetings. Again, there are 4 groups, right? And those 4 groups are broken across our state priorities. So an important note here, we have many people represented in this room who you hold, some of you are staff members, some of you are students, some of you are parents. We want to have all of those voices represented across all of the groups. So to make sure that happens, we will be assigning you to your group. Yes, you don't get to choose, I'm sorry. We will be assigning you. But that's because we want all of those perspectives in every group, right? That's critical to the success of this process. So you will receive an email invitation to your group for 2 weeks from now, right? That invitation will come out to you sometime tomorrow, right? It'll indicate the district location where you will report to. And for those participating virtually, they will stay in that virtual space. Right, so you see our different facilitators listed here, and the 4 groups across the priorities as Mr. Colon explained. So with that, again, this is an honor and a privilege to serve all of you. This process is so important that we brought you all here, right? And so as we prepare to leave off tonight, I give you, on behalf of everyone here, our heartfelt appreciation. So one note as we prepare to exit, because there are a number of folks here. Many of our students arrived to participate tonight by taking a bus. And so I'm actually asking that everyone stay seated. I'm going to release those students first. I want to make sure that we honor their time and their commitment in terms of getting back onto the bus and returning to their high school. So students, thank you very much. I really appreciate seeing all of you. The buses are parked right at the flagpole area where they dropped you off. Again, thank you so much. We will see you in 2 weeks. All right. So, again, we collected all of your emails when you came in, right? So we will be sending you a follow-up email. In that email, you will receive an electronic version of the booklet. You will receive the questionnaire from our facilities master plan folks, so you can respond to that. And you will also get information about our further dates, right? If you did not get a hard copy, do not fret. We will have additional hard copies available when we meet again in 2 weeks, and we'll have that available for all of you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful